Drew Scott from Property Brothers vanished from television for more than a year, and fans had no idea what was going on. In 2019, something began attacking his body from the inside. Doctors ordered test after test, searching for lupus and checking for neurological diseases, but nothing added up. His thoughts became foggy, his body could no longer tolerate heat, and he lost the strength to stand on set. The most frightening part was that no one knew what was slowly destroying him. By the time doctors finally uncovered the truth, the damage had already been done. Today, we are revealing the hidden illness that nearly ended his career and the painful reality he kept hidden from millions of viewers. Drew Scott's birth story begins in a room where everyone believed the hardest part was already over. It was April 28, 1978, in Vancouver, and Joanne Scott had just given birth to Jonathan. The doctor left the room, ready to continue his day, and Joanne finally allowed herself to breathe after hours of labor. Then a nurse leaned in with a puzzled expression and quietly said she felt another heartbeat. Joanne's mind went blank. She later joked that her first words were something she couldn't repeat in polite company, but Drew remembered her yelling, "Oh, SH," in disbelief. Just 4 minutes after Jonathan was born, Drew entered the world. There had been no indication of twins because in 1978, ultrasounds were uncommon unless there was a problem. The boy's heartbeats had aligned so perfectly that even trained professionals failed to notice. For the Scott family, the surprise was more than shocking, it was life-changing. Instead of one son, they suddenly had two, with two futures unfolding at the same time. As the shock faded, their family life settled on a quiet horse farm in Maple Ridge. Jim and Joanne had emigrated from Scotland and built their home with their own hands. The land was rough, the chores never ending, but the twins grew to love that steady rhythm. On cold mornings, they hauled feet across the yard with the chill cutting through their jackets. In the afternoons, they raced horses across wide-open fields, feeling like the world had no limits. Joanne joined them in karate classes and pushed them to stay disciplined. Their parents guided them along a strict but loving path, teaching them how to save money, repair what broke, and keep moving forward even when life was difficult. That ranch life embedded resilience in them long before they understood the word. It showed them how to work hard, how to keep trying, and how to stand back up after falling. By the age of 7, Drew and Jonathan wanted to build something of their own. That desire led to Jam Enterprises, a small business named after John, Andrew, and Mom. They wrapped hangers in soft nylon, decorated them with small roses, and went door to door selling them with shy smiles and big dreams. Their sales pitch was simple, but their effort was relentless. Some doors slammed shut, while others opened wide. At times, customers bought 5 hangers at once. Then a wholesaler placed a massive order that made their eyes grow wide. The boys earned nearly $15,000, a sum that felt almost magical. During the 1980s, Joanne walked them through invoices and deliveries, transforming their craft into a real-world business lesson. That early success taught them that money could grow through hard work and that teamwork mattered more than natural talent. Not long after, their lives took an unexpected and colorful turn. At just 8 years old, Drew and Jonathan became child clowns. Drew played Curly, while Jonathan became Dimples. It sounded silly, and it was, but the work paid up to $100 an hour. They performed at parades and birthday parties, covered in makeup, juggling props as children laughed around them. Drew loved the adrenaline rush and the feeling of holding a room's attention. He also enjoyed buying candy for friends with the money they earned. Eventually, the heavy makeup, costumes, and long preparation wore them down, and they stepped away from clowning. Still, those early performances nudged Drew toward a future in entertainment. They taught him how to read a crowd and keep people engaged, skills that would later prove invaluable. Their childhood continued with structure and firm expectations. Jim believed in working at any age and insisted they take on jobs as soon as possible. Whether they were selling hangers, performing as clowns, or helping on the ranch, the purpose was always the same: building character. Creativity was encouraged, but responsibility always came first. Every chore, every early morning, and every business attempt added another layer of strength. Years later, when people asked how they managed to balance real estate, acting, and television, the twins always traced it back to their parents. Everything good started there. While Jonathan leaned toward construction and magic tricks, Drew dreamed of basketball. By high school, he practiced 4 to 5 hours a day, pushing himself until he earned a 43 in vertical jump. It was the kind of number that made coaches pause. He made the University of Calgary team, but an injury stopped him before he played even one official game. Then in 2003, when he was 25, another college offered him a spot. At first it felt exciting, but quickly he realized the recruits around him were younger and moving faster. He walked away from the sport, feeling the ache of a dream closing behind him. That moment hurt, but it pushed him somewhere new. Real estate waited on the other side of that decision, even though he did not see it clearly at the time. At 18, while entering university, the twins bought their first property. Most students could barely pay rent, but Drew and Jonathan found a $200,000 fixer with a vendor take-back mortgage that required only a $250 down payment. They renovated it, sublet rooms for $800 each, lived rent-free, and sold the house a year later with a $50,000 profit. The process felt risky and thrilling. That flip became their entry into a world that would later define them. They kept going, flipping dozens of homes over the next 15 years, building experience one wall and one decision at a time. Drew kept juggling side jobs to survive. Flight attendant, personal trainer, website designer, mall security, busboy, even manager at a bikini store. Nothing stuck for long, but every job taught him something about people and pressure. Even with all that work, stability felt far away. He needed more control, especially when realtors kept costing them money through bad deals. So, in 2004, after losing thousands to poor representation, Drew decided he had had enough. He got his real estate license so he could protect every dollar they earned. With both brothers licensed, they handled everything themselves. That choice set the stage for their empire. Later that same year, they launched Scott Real Estate, Incorporated. It was a complete system under one roof. Drew found and negotiated properties. Jonathan designed, renovated, and staged them. They opened offices in Vancouver, Calgary, and Las Vegas, taking on up to 10 renovations at once. They became millionaires long before television ever called their names. Still, Drew held on to his acting dreams. His early acting career was full of small sparks, but no flames. He appeared in Breaker High in 1997 and Smallville in 2001, usually as background characters or uncredited extras. Even as a kid, he had performed as a clown, but nothing ever pulled him into the spotlight the way he hoped. Rejection piled up. He tried again and again through the late 1990s and early 2000s, but Hollywood did not open its doors. In 2002, he and his brothers started Davidian Production Group, hoping to build their own projects, but funds were tight and distributors kept turning them away. They kept the company alive only because real estate covered the bills. By 2010, they shifted toward digital and TV, but those early years tasted like constant struggle. By 2006, Drew hit burnout. He moved to Vancouver to chase acting full-time for 1 year. He slept at a friend's place, filmed auditions in his car, and pushed himself until exhaustion crept into his bones. Rejection after rejection wore him down. Eventually, he realized that acting alone was not enough. Something had to blend his talents and experience in a way that felt natural. That blend arrived when the brothers pitched their show idea. At first, HGTV loved Jonathan's construction skills, but barely noticed Drew. They even discussed centering the show entirely around Jonathan. Drew felt the sting of being overlooked again. After years of wanting a place in front of the camera, he feared losing his chance. He fought for his spot and convinced them that the show needed both brothers. That argument shaped everything that came next. Signing the HGTV deal was a leap into unknown territory. They already had a successful business. TV was a gamble with no safety net. Their pay was low. The commitment was heavy. If the show failed, they would lose valuable time they could have spent flipping properties. But they trusted the vision. In 2011, Property Brothers premiered. The moment the show took off, they finally understood what all those years of effort had prepared them for. Drew Scott became the face of Property Brothers in 2011, and everything changed almost overnight. The show launched quietly at first, but the moment those early episodes aired, more than 1.5 million people tuned in each week. Families watched him convince nervous homeowners to take chances on houses that looked hopeless. His smile made it look easy, but the truth ran deeper. He had already spent 15 years in real estate, working deal after deal until negotiation felt as natural as breathing. Because of that experience, the cameras only captured what he had already lived for years. The first episodes were filmed in Vancouver, and the rhythm was intense. Within 2 years, the brand had spread into spin-offs, products, and national press. Awards followed, and their names became familiar in homes far from Canada. Drew felt the wave pushing his life in directions he had not imagined. That success rested on something real. Long before anyone knew the show existed, Drew and Jonathan ran Scott Real Estate Incorporated. They had been working with real clients since 2004 and flipping homes with tight budgets long before any producer pointed a camera at them. The renovations seen on television often squeezed into 3-week windows because the brothers were doing it for real. During the first season, they filmed 5 homes in 4 months. Sometimes the days stretched to 16 hours and still felt too short. Homeowners arrived with hopes and fears. Budgets broke. Walls hid things no one expected, and the crew scrambled between reused sets and quick location swaps just to keep the schedule alive. Drew worked in the middle of it all, switching from host to negotiator to decision-maker so often that the roles blended together. As the show grew, new ideas kept appearing. By 2013, buying and selling arrived. Soon after came Brother vs. Brother, and later, Forever Home. By 2019, the franchise held more than 14 seasons and several side series. Drew felt the pull of a brand becoming bigger than the show that started it. In 2015, they launched Scott Living and hoped for steady growth, but instead the line reached $100 million in revenue within 2 years and aimed to double by 2017. They released books. They signed licensing deals. Their designs moved into furniture, kitchenware, and whole home collections. Drew stepped into boardrooms and helped shape every deal because the brand carried his name and his promise. He also stepped behind the camera. Scott Brothers Entertainment became his second home, a place where he shifted between creator and executive. By 2024, the company had produced more than 20 original series, digital projects, and branded films for platforms like HGTV, Netflix, and Amazon. Drew reviewed budgets, sat with creative teams, and built partnerships with companies that wanted access to the Property Brothers magic. Some days he filmed in one city, flew out for a meeting that same night, and arrived at an editing room the next morning. There were months he logged more than 20,000 miles while still appearing on screen like nothing was happening behind the scenes. But the pace began carving into him. Years of travel, filming, and constant pressure caught up in ways he did not expect. By 2025, he felt bone-deep exhaustion that no sleep could fix. His body ached. Heat from studio lights made him dizzy. Some days he could not stand for long without feeling his legs give out. Doctors later told him he was dealing with possible mercury poisoning along with chronic fatigue syndrome. The symptoms had been growing quietly for months, hidden behind smiles and scheduled appearances. Fans only saw small absences and quick statements. They did not see the days he could barely move or the moments he questioned whether he could keep going. When he finally spoke about it, people were shocked. It became clear that success had come with a heavy price. Long before the fame and the business expansion, something softer had started shaping his life. In 2010, during Toronto Fashion Week, Drew met Linda Fan. The room buzzed with music and bright lights, but she stood out with her playful costume as the fashion police, handing mock tickets to anyone with a questionable outfit. Drew laughed. She laughed. Soon they stepped out for sushi, then hot cocoa, then karaoke until sunrise. That first date had no talk of renovations or television. It was two people singing, joking, and learning each other's rhythm. Drew later said he believed in love at first sight, but what stayed with him was Linda's warmth and the steadiness behind her smile. Their connection grew slowly and then all at once. Later, when she became creative director at Scott Brothers Entertainment, their lives merged even more. Their wedding came a few years later in Italy on May 12, 2018. Puglia's hills looked soft under the sun as more than 300 guests arrived. The ceremony felt dreamy, but the path to that day was anything but calm. They had only 3 months to plan everything. Vendors needed decisions. Families needed guidance. Drew also needed to rehearse an elaborate first dance with Emma Slater, his partner from Dancing with the Stars. They worked with a designer named Vincenzo, who brought their mixed Scottish and Vietnamese heritage into the floral details. They filmed the entire celebration for a TLC special, adding another layer of pressure. In the middle of it all, they still held hands and reminded each other why the chaos mattered. When the day finally arrived, it truly looked like a fairy tale. A year before that, they had opened their home to viewers. Property Brothers at Home followed them as they renovated a $2.3 million 1921 English-style house in Hancock Park. It was a 12-week sprint filled with old house restrictions, tricky basement work, and an approaching deadline for a family reunion. Drew pushed through design decisions and unexpected challenges. Linda added touches of old Hollywood glam and Art Deco warmth. The cameras rolled while they balanced meetings, filming schedules, and wedding planning. The show gave fans a close look at their teamwork behind the scenes. It was messy and tiring, but it also showed how much they leaned on each other. Life continued to grow fuller for the family. Linda often shared that juggling home life and her career was her greatest challenge. While managing creative projects, she was also preparing for motherhood. During this time, Drew battled health issues but remained by her side, offering constant support. When their son, Parker James, was born in May 2022, it felt nothing short of miraculous. They had spent 2 long years trying to conceive, navigating IVF and IUI treatments, carrying equal parts hope and heartbreak. Parker arrived on their 4th wedding anniversary, and suddenly everything felt brighter. 2 years later, their family expanded again when their daughter, Piper Ray, was born in May 2024. Linda's second pregnancy was especially difficult. She struggled with swelling and deep exhaustion and relied heavily on Drew. He canceled travel plans, slowed down filming schedules, and focused entirely on caring for her. Their home became both louder and gentler at the same time, filled with diapers, laughter, and sleepless nights. Drew often joked that Parker might one day replace Jonathan in the family business. These two young lives changed their rhythm, even as the world around them continued moving at full speed. Then came the lawsuit that shook their public image. In 2019, newly married Mindy and Paul King from Las Vegas appeared in an episode titled Gambles and Jackpots. They paid nearly $200,000 for a full renovation completed by the show's team. After filming ended, they claimed their home was plagued with issues. They pointed to concerning electrical wiring, doors that failed to close properly, appliances scratched by stray grout, and nearly 90 total problems. In 2021, they filed a lawsuit against Villa Construction. The Nevada State Contractors Board reviewed the allegations and confirmed 10 deficiencies, estimating repair costs at $94,672. The Kings said they felt ignored and claimed that no one responded to them once filming wrapped. Although Drew and Jonathan were not named in the lawsuit, the public continued to associate the brothers with the situation. Headlines repeatedly mentioned their names, and fans began questioning whether the show truly delivered on its promises. The story spread rapidly online, and people who had never even watched the episode began framing it as a battle between everyday homeowners and a powerful television machine. The Kings said they felt misled and abandoned. They shared photos of warped cabinets, peeling paint, and exposed wiring. They also said they had spent additional money fixing problems after the cameras were gone. Their complaints encouraged others who had appeared on renovation shows to share their own frustrations. Online forums filled with similar stories, and articles began questioning how reality television handled quality control. The Kings became a symbol of a larger issue, and the damage to the brothers' reputation lingered. Even though Drew and Jonathan were not personally responsible, the show prominently featured their faces and voices. Viewers recognized the brand before understanding the production company's role. Media outlets used their images in every report, and critics questioned the reliability of on-screen transformations. Drew and Jonathan released statements distancing themselves from the claims, but the shadow remained for some time. The situation served as a reminder that fame has two sides: it can elevate you quickly, and it can test you just as fast. Around that same period, Drew Scott's health began declining in a way that felt strange even to him. It was around 2019 when fans noticed he was appearing on screen less often. At first, it seemed like an ordinary flu, but the symptoms kept accumulating. He felt constantly exhausted, so drained that even basic tasks felt overwhelming. His mind became foggy and slow. He frequently experienced stomach pain, and heat made everything worse. Days turned into weeks, then months, and instead of improving, his condition worsened. He went from doctor to doctor, hoping someone would finally connect the dots. Some suspected autoimmune diseases like lupus, while others considered rare neurological disorders. Nothing fit neatly, and the uncertainty frightened him. Eventually, after months of confusion, he received an answer. He was diagnosed with mercury poisoning combined with chronic fatigue syndrome. The diagnosis explained the crushing exhaustion, mental fog, and unpredictable waves of weakness and pain. The source of the mercury exposure remained unknown. It could have been something he consumed or something in his environment. Regardless of the cause, the damage was real and far more severe than he expected. As symptoms intensified, he was forced to slow down, and then slow down even further. Eventually, he stepped away completely from filming Property Brothers and other projects. He took more than a year off from sets and work travel while Jonathan continued handling several projects alone. Drew focused entirely on treatment and rest. The sudden quiet in a life once filled with constant movement felt deeply unsettling, but it was necessary for healing. Throughout this period, he kept fans informed through social media, sharing updates about both good days and bad ones, and describing how difficult it was to live with an illness no one could see. He also spoke openly about the emotional burden of a condition that shifted daily. When he returned in 2020, he moved differently. He became more selective about projects and stayed closer to home. Recovery taught him that health cannot be ignored, not even for work he truly loves. During that long stretch, he used Instagram and YouTube to explain his journey, discussing the frustration of receiving diagnosis after diagnosis that never fully fit. He talked about the fear that grows when your body changes beyond your control, and he admitted how deeply the mental strain affected him, trying to stay hopeful, managing stress, and holding on to faith that improvement would eventually come. He leaned heavily on Jonathan and was grateful his brother understood the meaning of silence when words felt too exhausting. His honesty drew thousands of fans closer. People saw a more vulnerable side of him and shared their own stories in return. For many, he became proof that it is possible to face an invisible illness and still move forward. Then, in November 2024, something deeply unsettling occurred. A series of YouTube videos suddenly claimed that Drew Scott had died in a car crash in Ontario. One video called Heartbreaking Tragedy of Drew Scott and His Wife, Linda, described a fake accident at 3 o'clock in the morning on November 19. It said he crashed into a truck, was trapped, unconscious, and did not survive. The creators even added a closed casket and crying women to make it look real. At the bottom of the video, they quietly wrote that the visuals and voices were edited or synthetic. Still, the video pulled in more than 16,000 views and caused real panic. The channel behind it, known for spreading false celebrity death news, even claimed Jonathan had made a public statement. None of it was true. No official source confirmed it. A few days later, Drew posted on Instagram, smiling at a Lakers game, clearing everything instantly. He was alive and well. The fake news spread fast before that, though. Fans rushed onto Facebook, YouTube comments, and message boards asking if he was gone. Some believed every word because the thumbnails looked emotional and convincing. News sites like Meow and Sportsca hurried to explain that the story was false. And no one from Drew's family or HGTV said anything about a tragedy. Many fans expressed real sorrow before learning it was all staged. Drew's posts helped settle the fear. His simple presence online was enough to push the lie away. Still, the hoax left a mark. Many noticed how easy it had become for online creators to twist truth into something dramatic for views. Some even admitted that their videos blended facts and fiction on purpose to earn more clicks. They used altered audio, synthetic faces, and storylines that sounded believable but were entirely made up. The Drew Scott hoax became a clear example of how these tactics can stir panic, profit off grief, and slowly weaken people's trust in real news. As all this noise faded, Drew's life started shifting into a calmer rhythm. After the original Property Brothers format ended in 2019, he turned toward smaller and more heartfelt projects. Property Brothers Forever Home arrived that same year. Instead of racing through dozens of houses per season, Season 1 had only 8 homes. This slower pace let the brothers connect more with families and dig deeper into each story. One home in Richmond, bought for $500,000 in 2015, was renovated and later sold for $989,000 in 2018. The project felt meaningful. It guided Drew into a space where work had heart and room to breathe. Behind the scenes, he took on even more responsibility. As co-founder and executive producer of Scott Brothers Entertainment, he oversaw almost 75 new episodes across 6 projects in 2021. Their shows ran on HGTV and Discovery Plus and reached viewers in more than 160 countries. He helped expand the company into lifestyle content, digital series and documentaries. He did not always appear on camera. Many days he worked quietly on development, guiding ideas and shaping projects from the background. Beyond television, Drew and Jonathan also built a strong business presence. Their home goods brand, Scott Living, launched in 2015. By the end of 2016, their outdoor furniture on QVC had brought in more than $100 million in revenue. They created Dream Homes, a luxury design division for high-budget custom builds. Their first book, Dream Home, came out in April 2016 and entered the New York Times list at number 9. Their memoir, It Takes Two, arrived in September 2017. They partnered with Target on school library makeovers and also worked with major retailers on exclusive product lines. These ventures allowed Drew to step back from constant filming without stepping away from success. All while this grew, Drew stayed active in philanthropy. He and Jonathan supported Habitat for Humanity for years. In 2017, they were named Habitat Humanitarians, the group's highest honor. They helped raise walls for new homes in Nashville in April 2018 and supported programs focused on pediatric cancer research through St. Baldac's Foundation. They joined efforts in Haiti with Artists for Peace and Justice to help build schools and support medical care. Their outreach touched thousands of people and showed how much good could come from using fame with purpose. By late 2025, Drew began choosing an even quieter path. He appeared less often, not because he was fading, but because he wanted to secure his health and protect the life he was building with his family. After a 2-year fertility journey that included IUI and IVF, he and Linda welcomed their first child on May 4, 2022, and their second on June 5, 2024. Fatherhood changed him. It slowed his pace. It reminded him that time moves quickly when children are small and that work can wait. He trimmed his filming schedule and kept more days open so he would not miss milestones. He said he wanted to be present, fully present for the family he waited so long to have.